In this update, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. So I just want to do a little pan of the garden, and I'm going to talk about how we've created the beds that we have in the garden. One of the things that I decided, was just really how things were, was that we didn't have a great deal of money to go out and buy expensive garden beds. So it's a question of using what we had. And I'll talk through some of the beds that we've built in some other videos, but I want to first of all talk about the baths. These baths have been repurposed, not only from their life as a bath, but also repurposed from their previous life that we use them for, which was for washing all the fleeces from our alpaca operation that we had, which has now been sold. So we've got these baths sitting in these frames. We had them at waist height when they were in the mill, and I got my husband to just dismantle everything that was in the mill at that time and put it out here in the garden and filled up these baths. So to start with, we gave them, because they're quite deep, a bath is quite a lot of water goes into a bath, so they are quite deep. There are different depths. Some of them are a little deeper than others. And so it took a little bit of filling. We started off just putting in some garden compost. We put in some cardboard and a little few logs, not very big ones, sticks I suppose you'd call them, but more than logs. And we have topped them up been gardening now for just under 2 years, so the baths have been topped up seasonally. You can see that this one, the level of the soil is a good 6 inches down, and this one has just been topped up more recently, so it's got I've used a little bit of hay to top up the baths, and we just keep feeding them. There is heaps of worms in there. The last part of the compost that we got wasn't terribly weed free, so we have got a few weeds, but we will deal with those. And they have worked really well because it's a great height. We've got this frame that was already made, and Grant, my husband, did a great job of making it. We do get some paper wasps every now and again, deciding to build a nest. But that's been the repurpose of the bed. So baths are a great thing to make some garden beds out of. The first thing we did when we put them in or started to fill them up with compost was actually cover the drain hole, because I thought that was a good idea. But it actually wasn't, because my carrots that I had in at the time ended up getting flooded. So we used to have the water coming out of the bath when we washed the fleece, came out from these pipes, and there was a system of draining it. And we just ended up with some buckets underneath that catch the drain water, but we don't actually really need that. It can just go onto the ground. So that's the baths, and that's how we repurposed and reused. Now, I mentioned that they were up at this height in the mill, but we also had a platform. We actually chopped the leg off a little bit. It was taller, and we had a platform up, which then became this bed over here. Just take you around here. So this bed, this frame here, was what was sitting, this frame here was what was sitting in the middle of the baths, and it was the walkway between the two. And this one also has been a really useful bed. So it's a good width. Sometimes I think beds can get a little bit too wide and you can't manage leaning across to get the vegetables out. This one went straight on the dirt. So I didn't prepare the ground. We just covered the lawn. This was our lawn out here. We covered the lawn with cardboard just to suppress the weeds, and put the frame round, and then we put the compost in this frame. And again, this one has also been topped up as we've gone through a few seasons of growing. So the baths and the walkway between the baths, for those that do know our farmers, the fibre mill, will maybe recognise them, are now repurposed into 5 garden beds. So that's the first introduction of what we've done, use and reuse and repurpose. I'll just mention a little bit about this frame. This is what we call Waratah standards. It's like a triangular piece of metal with some holes in. that people use for fencing in New Zealand, and we just had some drain pipe, which is the drain pipe we use for draining the water from the baths, and this becomes a good frame to use to tie up if you're tying up some plants that you want to sort of grow up. So that was also another repurpose. And again, the waratahs were around the farm here, so the whole of these beds, 5 separate beds, was just repurposing things that we had around the farm. And isn't that cabbage looking nice? Catch you next time.